Hello everybody, welcome to the third video. This is the third binder, and here we can see lands. So my initial setup was 2 albums, so you can watch the first and the second video when you have got all of the cards of the 5 colors and also multicolored and artifact cards. But then I decided to change this idea a little bit because there was simply not enough space there, and also, as you can see, I am definitely quite terrible at those things, and I did it, upside down. So actually it was supposed to start there, but instead it starts here. Yes, let us not talk about it again. In any case, I felt that lands deserved their own binder, and here you will see that it's really a bit random compared to my previous binders, because the previous binders were definitely allocated in terms of color and also in terms of casting cost, but as you understand, lands do not have any casting cost. So the solution for me was to simply try and find some principle based on which they're going to be categorized, and while I did try to arrange them according to the colors they have, I also tried to arrange them according to the functions, because of course many of these lands fall into the 5-color cycle paradigm, and the first cycle here, so this was one of my ideas, so that the first page doesn't contain the super expensive cards, because the first page is usually the most vulnerable one. That's why I didn't want to bring, for example, Bazaar of Baghdad on the very first page. So I brought these completely useless but absolutely beautiful lands. So here you have got my personal favorite, and I know it is the case for many other people, Cathedral of Sarah by Mark Poole. This gold frame, it's a unique frame really. You cannot find it anywhere else outside of Legends. This unique frame just adds to the beauty of it. There are 2 moons, as you can see. There is this, I guess, Neuschwanstein style castle, and it's absolutely beautiful, but useless. All your white Legends game bands with other Legends. It's not just the usual banding. Why couldn't they have banding? Why couldn't we get at least a colorless mana from that land? It's very bad. And of course we've got the whole package here, and these are not really that beautiful. I do like the blue land, which is kind of reminiscent of Mercadian Masks. Well, reminiscent is not the right word here, because Mercadian Masks of course came out much later, but I don't know, it's a beautiful card, isn't it? I like the colors here. A lot of things to see. Then Oasis, and really a pity that this card doesn't work in the same way as Desert does, because I'm not sure that this ability is more powerful than the Desert's ability. I think they're somewhat comparable. Maybe Desert is even better, but this one sadly doesn't give you mana. That's why it sees, we can say, 0 play. Well, Desert does see some marginal play still. And we cannot ignore the worst land ever printed. It's so bad that it's good, as we know. And here, how many copies have I got? Let me see. I've got 3 copies now. And it's not coincidental, because I do want to make a deck based on it. It will be, of course, using Gauntlets of Chaos. And if you do manage to use it and then you tap it, let's get the English copy in case you're not familiar with the text. If you do get it with Icy Manipulator, then it's going to be a nightmare for your opponent, because as soon as you tap this land, and notice that it doesn't have to be even tapped, this is a kind of a separate ability, it doesn't have to be tapped for this ability, so it's not necessary that your opponent activates it specifically. It can be tapped using Icy Manipulator, just like City of Brass, and you would still get the damage from City of Brass. So here, if you do this, then your opponent will be dealt 2 damage, and 2 damage each of the creatures whenever it is tapped. Whenever it is tapped, of course, the Sorrow's Pass. So yeah, it's just a very, very beautiful card, because there's so much going on. In the background we see this classical fantasy dragon. We see the epic battle on the bridge, and we see some powerful mage with those beautiful glyphs on his robe, turning some knight into stone, and it's just very iconic. It's beautiful, but well, it is a terrible card. It is a terrible card, except for when it is in your opponent's hands. And why not talk about Arena as well? So Arena is another book promo, and actually it's not such a terrible card. Okay, it doesn't give you mana, so that's already not a good beginning, but the ability that we see here is actually kind of virtual tap. So let me show you how it works. Choose one of your creatures and have your opponent choose one of his or her creatures. They become tap, your creature does power, so they fight essentially, as it is called now, which makes sense. But what's interesting is that you can do this during your opponent's upkeep. The creature that you have does not have to be untapped, so that's important. So for instance, you have a tapped creature, and for 3 mana and tap, you can tap your opponent's creature. Of course, you can use it to destroy some of your opponent's weaker creatures, so technically not that bad. Now, this particular page is full of beautiful, super expensive cards I was incredibly reluctant to get because I thought that I don't really need them, and I still don't feel very good when I look at them, because I understand how much money was spent on them, how much money could have been converted into something else perhaps, but yeah, this is the conversation that we're getting back to. So Tabernacle. Tabernacle, what's amazing about this card is, you know, I went on eBay just for fun, and I found the actual Tabernacle made of metal, I think, and it was located, I think, in Romania, if I'm not mistaken. It was located somewhere in Europe, and it was being sold for a couple of hundred euros, a couple of thousand, I mean, and what definitely really struck me back then is that I understood that the actual Tabernacle is less expensive than some of the copies, of course, the English copies of Tabernacle from Legends. And I don't know, this should speak volumes, I think, about the value of this card. So yes, I haven't played it ever. There is an absolutely beautiful combo with Living Plane, Tabernacle, and Caracas. Really beautiful combo. I think we will see it one day when I finally make my 42 land deck. Mishra's Workshop was another card that was very difficult for me to get. It is a very expensive card. It is one of those cards that you would get a playset of, and it's really a kind of a Black Lotus every turn for artifacts. Insanely powerful, very straightforward, but just so good. And I'm not a huge fan of the art, to be honest, there. But however, I am a huge fan of Strip Mine with the tower, and this card has been going up and down. Interesting enough, it is not the most rare, it is not the most uncommon, so to say, type of of Strip Mine, because there are some more expensive variants, but still, it is one of the most loved cards by the crowd when it comes to Strip Mine. So even though I did have the 4 copies, I really felt like getting one more, and this one is beautiful. Love it. This is of course my go-to Strip Mine, so I rarely play EC or any other formats where you have unrestricted Strip Mine, and of course it's a great card to use. Then we've got Elephant Graveyard. Elephant Graveyard is unique, and it can regenerate your elephant or mammoth. And again, I love the italics here. And it looks, I don't know, it looks super plain, there is pretty much nothing, as you can see. It looks deserty, but well, it does make sense, you know, Elephant Graveyard, remember Lion King, so yeah. I actually think did this come out before Lion King or after? I wonder. And you know, sometimes I think about Arabian Nights, the popularity, you know, Aladdin was a thing back then, so I think these things are kind of tied up with each other, because, for example, when Twilight and all of those vampires were popular, Wizards released Zendikar, and in Zendikar we had some vampires, of course, and I don't know, pirates and ninjas, who knows whether this was just coincidental and some particular creature types would get more popular, and just some themes, some kind of settings. So yes, Bazaar of Baghdad. Bazaar of Baghdad I was also reluctant to get. Now I think I will be able to play this card in my Reanimator deck, but of course the reason why it's so expensive is not because of old school mainly, because look, in old school and vintage we have got this beauty, but Bazaar is still more expensive because of legacy. And here we can see, or vintage, I don't remember. Is it in vintage that it's possible to play Unrestricted Bazaar and you have Mannerless Dredge? I don't remember. So yes, Library of Alexandria. Library of Alexandria is the card that cannot be beaten. It's the absolute favorite of mine. You know, maybe you have seen my videos where I play Magic, where I just record matches and comment on them. And in those videos you will see that I usually like to choose this background, so where I just cut the unnecessary information from the screen and just focus on the screens of my opponent and me. I definitely like to have Library of Alexandria, and I don't know, everything is perfect about it. It's Mark Poole, of course, the perspective here, the huge library, you can imagine what kind of knowledge can be found there. We also, of course, know the tragic story of Library of Alexandria as well, so it definitely adds to the lore, it adds to this feeling of something majestic and powerful that is no longer accessible, and I absolutely love it. So Mishra's Factory is actually, as you can see, I have got a couple of playsets of. I still unfortunately don't have any original antiquities. Of course, it's nice to get the winter one, everybody knows it, everybody loves it, but I also really appreciate the summer one. I don't know, it's one of the things I might upgrade in the future, but since Mishra is ubiquitous and I'm growing a little bit tired of that card, I'm not sure it's going to happen soon. Now, let me of course boast my beautiful Japanese black bordered Cities of Brass that Olga was kind enough to let me have. A friend of mine with whom we are playing old school Magic on the webcam, and yeah, she just sold it to me for the purchase price, and it's very nice. I appreciate it because she knew that I wouldn't be the person who's going to resell them. And of course, this is my first set of Cities of Brass that I like to have, and the second one will be, of course, the white bordered one. Next, we have Caracas. So we have this cycle of Legends lands, and as you can see, all of them or not all of them, let me see. Yeah, I think all of the Legends will be in Italian, and these are anthology, I think, right? 98, very, very late set actually. Don't like to have such late reprints, but it is what it is. And here we have a play set, because of course it's a legendary land, but it's one of those that is very good to have early. Teleria, Teleria, beautiful card. It is really, really cool looking. When you look there, you feel the temperature, you feel the breeze, you feel the heat that there is. It's a beautiful card. I absolutely love it. And quite funny, I remember that was the card that I got one of the few cards that I got before I got into old school Magic, actually, and I got it just because of the picture, nothing else, just because of the picture. And it was maybe back in 2016. Yeah, back in 2016. I started old school in 2017. So I got this card just because I love the picture. And my daughter and I were going to Spain, and I said to my daughter, so you know what Spain looks like? And she said, no, I don't. And I gave her this card as a gift. Actually, she has a tiny binder, and it's still there. Maybe we can look at it. There are a couple of old school cards as well that I gifted her, and I told her, yeah, so this is Spain, and actually it's not that far from that. Of course, I was referring to the Balearic Islands. So good times. Anyway, here we have got some more cycles. Of course, Caracas is also very, very iconic. This art is very well known to me. Where exactly do I know it from? So here you can see this art in the Chandelar game. So in the Chandelar game, there were different backgrounds that you could see if you came to a store, I don't know, a tavern, there were some other things, basically some buildings that you visited, and they decided to reuse the art. And what's interesting is that you couldn't necessarily feel that they reused the art. Why? Because those cards were generally not included. So for example, there was no Caracas card in that particular game. So you simply went there, you had some kind of a shop, you could buy food, you could trade cards, you could get some pro tip advice, something. Like for example, you said to some guy, give me some kind of advice, the wise sage, and this sage would have you pay 50 gold and tell you, for example, that in order to prevent your psychic entity from killing itself, you can put holy strength on it, and it's like a super smart combo which you wouldn't have figured out on your own. Yes, quite naive, but nice times. And here we have got, so this is an interesting one, right? Because here we can see the cycle of those cards from Fallen Empires. And these two things shouldn't be mixed up with each other. Because on the one hand, we have got this definitely more interesting cycle. They come into play tapped, add 1 mana, and for sacrificing and giving 2 mana, you can have the second ability, right? So basically it's just some kind of a delay, but the possibility of mana acceleration if you need some kind of an explosive spell played. And I always mix it up with these cards. So, for example, Dwarven Hold is very similar to Dwarven Ruins, right? Of course, they are different, but they kind of look the same. They're from the same set. The frame is the same, and I don't know, always confused me. And these two, right, here it's not even coincidental, okay? Because both of them are by Pat Morrissey. They do absolutely the same, just change red to black, and yes. So, I don't know. They might even be, you know, a part of the same, maybe bigger illustration. I'm not sure about the story, but yeah. So, for a very long time, I didn't have this particular card, and I thought that I had it, so yeah. Next, we have the duel. So, okay, about the duels, we will definitely have a separate video. I want to talk about my 40 before 40, how exactly I got there. Why, and this is a kind of a sad story, why some of these cards, as you can see here, there are not 10 slots, but more than that. Why some of these are kind of isolated, and how you can get, I don't know, too desperate about something maybe. And, you know, the joy of owning my first dual land, something I thought I would never have. The first one was Underground Sea. This is something I got from Star City Games when I traded my Legacy and modern cards for Underground Sea. And I don't know, looking back at how far you have come, it's really amazing. Because, well, there is just nothing to it than grinding, you know, spending extra time and effort, because money, of course, is all about time and effort that you put into it. And this was my idea, you know, when I thought that I should start spending money on something more maybe wise, something that is, I don't know, something that has unique value. And this is what I decided to concentrate on, magic. And this might not be the best solution, but then again, talking about the position I'm in, this is definitely not the worst investment I've had. And of course, the cards themselves are already very valuable. So here we have got the basic lands. With basic lands, I went a pretty straightforward way. I just got the basic lands from Revised. I got, I think, somewhere around 30 of them. And I also commissioned Marta Molina, a really talented painter from Spain, to expand some particular unlimited basics. And she did an amazing job. There is a separate video on that. I can actually show it to you. And just the whole process of working with the artist, of looking at some kind of intermediary results that they had, and just the idea of having something unique painted especially for you is really, really satisfying. So I, of course, love these particular 5 basics that I chose especially. And yeah, here they are. Don't have a lot of interesting stuff here. There is one forest that I think is hiding somewhere. Maybe here. Yep, here it is. So, this is the beautiful forest that I have got. This is from this cup that we held, and I got to top 8 with my black, red with blue and white splash deck of the rack. But I didn't get any further, unfortunately. But still, this one I like it a lot. And I like the stamp, because sometimes stamps are a little bit random. Here it's just very, very good. Very relevant, cool looking. So as far as you can see here, this is a beautiful, beautiful story. As far as you can see here, we have got not revised, because I told you that, yes, I usually would just get revised lands. We've got unlimited lands. And unlimited lands are, of course, more, as you can see, saturated. And, okay, also we have got this one, right? It's from the same, but this was for top 8, and this was for every participant. It just says the participant of the cup of Old School Magic 21. And what I wanted to say is that I got these simply for basically it was just bulk deal. I don't remember how much it was. Maybe it was 1 cent, maybe not 1 cent, but maybe like 5 cents or something. Absolutely what you could ignore. And I got them as bulk lands. But it was such a long time ago, probably 2008, from Troll and Toad. So you could get islands for pennies. And one of those islands, so to say, or one of those varieties of islands was actually lands from Unlimited. Why? Probably because there were so many of them. Because if you really cracked some old school boosters, you understood the incredible number of those lands that you would get, right? You would get them, you would get several lands in one booster easily. So nobody actually needed them. Some people, I suppose, didn't like them at all, how they looked, and I don't know how exactly it happened. They probably unloaded them as bulk, and I kid you not, I got these 20 lands because I would never have bought such expensive lands, even though, of course, I like Unlimited. I understand that Unlimited definitely looks better, so let's look at them side by side. That's why I told you that I commissioned Marta Molina to do this particular Unlimited art rather than the revised art. So here revised, here Unlimited, yeah, just much cooler, much more saturated. In this case, it's definitely so, but yeah, there it is. Mountains are kind of my pride here in terms of basic land, because I have got virtually a global set. I wouldn't call it complete global set because we don't have all of the languages, and even though we do have a lot of languages, we don't have all of the varieties. But we do have every land from alpha to, I think, 4th edition, so basically the last edition, where you could see this particular original art. And I will make a separate video of that, and I just wanted to show you that there is Summer Magic Mountain. It's very difficult to get, and it is unique. Let's look at it side by side with another art. So I think we can get this, and again, as I have said, we will have a special video on this because it definitely deserves some more attention. This is the so-called Arabian Nights art mountain. So this is the revised, nothing special about it. This is Summer Magic. So you can see the colors really pop. The white is incredibly saturated, just like in this Nalathi Dragon that we looked at in the previous video. This card, of course, is pristine. It's near mint. There is absolutely no damage on it. So, of course, unplayed. I did play it a little bit, but of course I'm very carefully handling these. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's one of the very few cards that exist. Again, the problem is that some of you might say, we don't know how many of these there are. Maybe there is some kind of artificial scarcity to inflate the value. Maybe, I'm not sure about that. And maybe one day we will see how Summer Magic floods the market when somebody decides to exit out of it. I don't know. But in any case, it's amazing to have that. And this is also the same art, of course. So this is why I got this particular art, because this is the same art as Arabian Nights Mountain, the infamous Arabian Nights Mountain. And as you can see, this card is so iconic that there was some kind of a homage to this in 1998 in anthologies. It was reprinted, especially with the symbol, because, you know, these sets, these expansions, of course, the early expansions, did not have any basic lands. So it is seen as some kind of an error. And initially, of course, this was the only basic land that was printed in an expansion. And I think it was the case until what? I'm not sure exactly whether it was until Mirage or Ice Age. Yeah, I think it was until Ice Age, right? Because Ice Age was the first non-core set in which we got basic lands. So, yeah. And here we have got the altered card. Sadly, it's not one of those, because back then I didn't think that I would get the Arabian Nights art, so I was actually concentrated on collecting these. But again, we will compare everything. We have Alpha, we have Arabian Nights, we have Summer Magic, we have Beta, Unlimited, Revised 4th edition, Alternate 4th edition. We've got 4 in black bordered 3rd edition, black bordered 4th edition, all of those things. So we will definitely look at them side by side, compare them, and it will be a good way for us to distinguish between different editions. And finally, we have got Swamps. Nothing really special here. I do have an altar somewhere around. I'm not sure why it's not the first card here. Definitely not the right thing. Maybe I still have it somewhere in one of my decks. It shouldn't be the case. Oh, here it is. Some reason got hidden. And yeah, Swamps, I don't know, they're nice, but it's not that I'm a huge fan of them. I really love the forests, especially this Christopher Rush forest with the path over here. I absolutely love islands. Again, Mark Poole. Nothing can be done against that. It's a super good card, really beautiful. And yeah. By the way, I just wanted to say one really interesting thing to you. I don't remember whether it's just my theory or I actually read about it somewhere. So if we look at these two side by side, you know, originally in Alpha and Beta, there were only 2 arts, right? in alpha and beta, or was it only in alpha? Yeah, I think it was only in alpha. So anyway, in the early editions, you had only 2 arts, okay? And then they added the 3rd art, and this is art C, basically. And do you see any similarity between these 2 cards? I think you can see the similarity, and essentially, if you look at it, they are mirrored, and I think that's the case. I gotta check it. But I think they're mirrored, and here we have slightly different saturation, and that's all. Is that the case? I don't remember. But maybe not. Maybe I'm making things up. Because here we can see Mark Poole's signature, and here it is. So yeah, I don't remember. Maybe it's just my crazy fan theory. So in any case, thank you for watching. Thank you for going through my very long videos and rambling about my collection. But it was just a pleasure to share with you. It's really my treasured possession, I can say. And in the future, of course, I will tell you a lot of interesting stories about these cards. We will take a closer look at them. So stay tuned and look forward for more videos. Bye.